Michael, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you serve, and in what ways Threaded has intersected your life and your ministry for the better.
Wow. Yeah, give a preacher an open microphone. That's a dangerous move.
I know, with 3 different prompts. Well, I tried to give you 3 prompts so you could keep it all
So my
structured.
name is Michael Gilton. I'm the senior pastor. We call it rector of St. Philip's Episcopal Church in Frisco, Texas. And I know we're across the country here. Frisco's very affluent area. The church itself, while it has probably beats the Episcopal Church in average of visual diversity, is pretty much an Anglo church here in Frisco. We are Episcopalians. So we encountered Threaded through prior relational connections. So when I came on 2 years ago, we began thinking through our vision and touched on what does race mean? What does racial reconciliation mean? What are we doing? Who are we?
Mm-hmm.
We had connections with Marcus and with his wife. Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
So it was very natural for us to reach out and say, kind of help us think through all of this. And what we gathered together was that there's a real opportunity for us to begin to educate ourselves broadly on the subject of race. That led us to bring Threaded in twice for cohorts. And I just gotta, again, and you've heard me say this to you, but I just want to shout out, y'all, in the way that you worked in our culture, the way Threaded worked with our language and what is, how we speak. It was magnificent. I really not worked with a group that could understand our tribe that quickly and that well. And the other thing I just want to point out and put y'all on the pedestal is
Uh-oh.
yeah, I'm sorry, man. Y'all are awesome.
Be careful now. The only thing you can do is fall off a pedestal.
Yeah, I know. It's a very small pedestal, so you're not going to hurt yourself.
There you go.
Gravity is heartless, but
it doesn't care who you are.
What y'all were able to do in our context was listen to what we wanted and speak in a language that was gospel and biblical. So we're an Episcopal church. We're also unabashedly, we would call it a biblical worldview. And the fact that we could have race conversations with a strong biblical worldview and a strong gospel emphasis made the conversation so much easier.
Amen.
Because we had that commonality in the conversation, right? We had that commonality in the gospel and the cross, and starting from there, we could move into those areas in which we were not so common.
Yeah.
Which
is the way it should be.
And I like it. And I love what we did. Love it. Wanted to throw things every now and then, but I loved what we did. But let me tell you this one. We put this in writing. I don't know if you've seen it. We have an emphasis in our congregation on a long-term missional relationship in Navajo land.
Okay.
And what we found was fascinating, once we began to explore it, we have Navajo in our congregation that we didn't know.
Yeah.
We have Navajo speakers in our congregation. So we're like, okay, tell me about that, right? And by the way, Duolingo does have Navajo. So
does it really?
It does.
There's a
French, right? Why am I working on French?
I don't know if it's Navajo, but there's there is up in Choctaw area. There's an exhibit that we're going to be going. I'm going to take in some people to learn a little bit more about that. Anyway, continue. I just learn a little bit more.
It's cool stuff. But the word I would share with you, there are a lot of different what we might call ground zeros for race in America, right?
Yeah,
I would put Navajo land as one of those kind of hot button areas. What our group realized were those who had been equipped by Threaded were so much more able to work in, establish relationships, work together, share a common language. If I use the word, I'm not trying to be awkward with it, but they were more successful in mission.
Yeah.
in those who were struggling to try to understand some of the base racial issues. So what we've realized is when we send teams that have not been trained, we need to train our people on race if they're going to go into this hotbed of Navajo land.
Yeah, and on some levels, it's a race conversation, and there's some definite race specific things, but it's another way of helping people think outside of themselves in a way that allows for connection to be made quicker and easier, which is always an important thing when you're bringing the gospel to a context, any context. So we're just talking about, at this point, we're just talking about missions and how to do missions well, right? But and again, it's just the gospel, but it turns out that in the race space, it is a completely different kind of mission field that if you can have some of these tools, it will really help you make connection early and be able to move forward.
Yeah, I'm let's a missiologist as a hobbyist. How's that?
Ah, there he is.
Contextualization is one
Yes.
thing, kind of the missional concept of contextualization. I can go to Uganda, and I would argue that's contextualization.
Yeah.
There's certain places I would argue, like Navajo land, where race is something that's not simply contextualization.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
more
large
embedded.
portion. I mean, maybe it's a subset, right? But it might not be the first subset we think about.
Yeah. 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 Well, I remember getting over there and working with you guys, and it was always a fun time for me. And Marcus and I would talk a little bit beforehand on some of the lessons, if you will, some of the classes, or what do you want to call these things? Some of the sessions. Let's go with session. Some of the sessions that we would do. But man, you guys, it's wonderful to hear that the training was able to produce again real time ministry impact. That wasn't politically inclined. It wasn't about getting lost in the divisive ways the conversation kind of gets pulled and pushed
Hmm.
outside of the church. Inside of the church is about knowing people, loving people, and availing yourself or opening yourselves up to
Hmm.
that kind of concept. I want to love and be loved. I want to express the fact that I am part of the body and would like you to be a part of the body. Or if you're already there, I want to understand who you are and celebrate you and you me. And that cohesiveness is what Paul describes as the body, and
Hmm.
it's one of the things that we really want to go after. I hope it's one of the distinguishing factors of Threaded in the space of racial reconciliation and social change.
Yeah, I would absolutely highlight that and go, your hope, I think, has been achieved. I would argue the way that Threaded looks at, um, church's body is so helpful in moving past the divisive and political parts of this. Um, there is, there is a commonality we have. It's Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
We can start from that commonality. We got a heck of a lot more chance of getting making progress together as disciples of Jesus than if we say I'm this political party or that political party, right?
Absolutely.
Whatever you and I might want to say, um, we both know Jesus,
Yeah.
and if that's the only commonality we share, that would be enough,
It
right?
ought to be. That should change. Actually, more than enough. It should change everything.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It should be the foundation and the basis that forms the rest of
Yeah.
the conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is that foundation, that unshakable ground we can actually stand on.
Yeah.
And if we're not standing on that unshakable ground, if I'm on this political party or this political party, we're doomed, right? I can't
We
have
are.
that conversation with you. I simply cannot.
We are. Man, there's so much more. I mean, there's so much to get into it all. I love that. This part of the conversation. I would jump in. I mean, there's there's things I want to say, but it'll turn into a podcast, and we'll save it. We'll save it for later. But
So
it's
may I make just one shout out for y'all?
yeah, go for it.
Right? I don't know who else involved in this, but if you're looking for a podcast that is informative and challenging, and you really want to think through some of these things, colored commentary is one that I highly recommend. Um, so I listen to Tim Keller stuff. I listen to Golf Subpar. An hour and a half a week. Listening to golfers talk back and forth.
Hey,
And
hey,
color commentary is
it's
always in
okay.
that matrix, man, because it is
I love it.
it's got content, and it comes in ways. I don't know how to say this better. It just comes in ways I didn't expect to hear it. I like it. I think y'all do a magnificent job in that area.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, shout out to the color commentary fam that's out there. And if you haven't checked it out, you can just go to colorcommentary.com. It's a good starting spot. Or you just go to your favorite podcast and search color commentary, look for the blue and beige microphone colors there. There's another colored commentary that's not us. And the conversation is just slightly more colorful than the way, in a different kind of way than we would want it to be. So look for that. But Michael, man, thanks for coming on and sharing a little bit. I'm encouraged by your story, and we want to continue partnering with you and with your church, and continue to write stories and tell stories about how God is shaping and making his name known through our lives and our congregation. So thank you, man.
Amen,
I
brother.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Peace.